Hello again, welcome back everyone. Liquorhound here with you. Thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. And today we're going to be reviewing the brand new 2016 release of the Laphroaig Cairdeas. Now this Cairdeas is actually finished in Madeira casks, okay, so that's what makes this year special. Last year's 2015 was the 200th anniversary Cairdeas, and that was pretty much just straightforward, kind of a Laphroaig, not quite as big as some of the cask strengths, but up there. It was 51.5 ABV. Then we're going to go ahead and review the Amontillado, the 2014 Cairdeas, and the port finish. That was the 2013 release. Now the funny thing about all these is if you've ever looked at the ABV on them, the 2013 is 51.3 for 13. The 2014 is 51.4 for 14. You got it for the 2015, 51.5, and the 16, 51.6. So they're just kind of, I think that's just comical. They just try to sneak that in on us. But anyway, that's what they're doing on ABVs. But let's go ahead and get to the actual nosing and tasting, starting with the Madeira casks. One thing you might be saying is that, you know, you reviewed this before. You're right, I did review this with the 2015 last year, and I did review these two in a separate video back in 2014 when the Amontillado first came out. But the reason I wanted to do these side by side is because I want to see how they hit me, you know, which one do I really enjoy the best? Because back when I reviewed these two, these bottles were fairly new open. Now, I have not been gassing these because I want to see how they progress and how they changed, and they have changed. So we're going to go ahead and just review them all now and see how they go. This bottle of the 2016 Madeira Cask has been open for about 2 weeks now, but very little has been sampled, but we're going to go ahead and go on the nose here. Very, very sweet on the nose. It's that Madeira Cask is giving it kind of a, it's giving it a little bit of like a red wine character to the Laphroaig. Those red berries, hint of stewed fruits on there. Just a lot of smoked meat character coming out as well. Hint of that typical Laphroaig brine, a little bit of that Laphroaig medicinal quality, that iodine, but it's very, very minute, and it's definitely in the background, way beyond the sweet fruit character of the wine, and then also the smoke and the smoked meat. A little bit of cinnamon, and that's pretty much it on that one. It's not very complex on the nose, but it is very enticing. It is sweeter on the nose, and it does invite you into the glass. All right, to the 2015 non-finished. This is all ex-bourbon Laphroaig. This one has a little more fruit, a little less smoke. It's also a little less sweet, but I can actually get a little bit more of the malt, a little more of the grain coming through here. Whisper of honey. It's kind of a honeyed malt, so it's a little sweetness to that malt. I would say there's some apples, some citrus, or a little bit of a citrus oil element going on the nose. The hint of that smoked meat that you're getting much bigger here is in here, but it's a little more subdued. The brine comes through a little brighter though. That sea air type element coming through is a little brighter here than it is here. All right, the Amontillado 2014. This one, since it's been open, it's lost a little bit on the nose as far as I remember it used to be very, very vibrant on the orchard fruits, and now it's kind of on the nose. They're definitely in there. There's a bigger vanilla note here than there is on any of the other previous two. But those orchard fruits, they're still in there. It's like a golden raisin, golden apple type element. But that vanilla is really popping now. The iodine is picked up in here, but it's very well balanced in with the smoke. There's a hint of that smoky meat. So this one's definitely leaning a little more on this category, which is a little more balanced. Not too sweet, but a good amount of sweetness. I would almost call it almost like a little bit of a banana peel type element on the nose as well on this one. And maybe a little lemon zest. Really, really nice. Okay, port wood finished Laphroaig 2013. Wow, now this guy, he's come around. So I remember when I first did this video, I really felt it was kind of unbalanced, and it was kind of like port wine, and then there was the Laphroaig, but they didn't feel like they had intermingled well enough for my liking at the time. But I will say this bottle has come around now that it's oxidized, and it's starting to really come full circle with it being the Laphroaig with the smoked meat character that you're getting here, and a really nice plum dark fruit character from that port finish. So you're getting those prunes, raisins, fig type element, smoked bacon, smoked meat. The cinnamon is still popping in here. Not getting any vanilla like I was getting over here. Not getting any... There's some berries. There's some more red berries mixed in with those dark fruits. So it almost has a twinge of this, but more dark fruit character here. All right, let's go to the tasting. We'll start with the 2016 on that fresh palate. Wow, 51.6. It's pretty nice. It's very easy drinking. Wow. One thing I was noticing right there, it enters and it's lots of that sweet fruits, those winey type character, wine fruits, red berries. But the strange thing that's hitting me right now is that on the mid palate, it's getting ashy, and it's getting like cigar ash, not, you know, cigar leaf or a cigar box. No, it's the ash of a cigar. It's laying right there on the palate, right there at mid palate. Let's try this again. So right up front, again, berries, red wine, a little bit of brine, cinnamon swell here on the mid palate, cigar ash, and the peat reek starting to lay in. Wow, and yeah, it is leaning pretty heavy on the ash. It's not horrible. It's not horrible, but I'm not a really big fan of a lot of ash into my Islay whiskeys. You know, I like smoke. I like the peat flavor, but I don't like it when it gets too ashy. And that one's kind of leaning ashy for me. Let me go back and try it one more time. Make sure we're on there. It's really enjoyable as it first hit it. It does not feel 51.6. It's just really fruit, good amount of sweetness. Smoked meat is in here. Then the peat, ash. A little bit of like a leather character on the back end of this one as well. It's pretty good. It's actually very easy drinking. That's the one thing I'll say about it. If you don't mind the ash, then you're going to be fine here. I can appreciate it, but it's probably not going to be my favorite here. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to the 200th. That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. It is very close to the old Laphroaig cask strengths, how they were almost buttery and creamy mouthfeels. Again, you can really taste the barley coming through. The peat is in here, but it's not dominating. I am getting a little like cinnamon and almost a little cardamom in this one. Again, that's an herb that you'll typically find in like gins, but it's a little of it in here as well. It's a little touch grassy. Again, that's just a little bit of that barley still coming through, a little bit of that honey. Definitely has some citrus, some lemon peel, coming through onto the palate. I would even say it does have a little bit of a golden raisin element to it. Not really a smoky meat character, but there is that typical Laphroaig iodine in here. Very, very nicely done on the 200th. I would actually prefer this over this, but that's just my opinion. All right, Amontillado, let's see how this guy ranks. Nice sweetness up front. Wow, really nice. It's still hanging in there with the orchard fruits, with that lemon zest that you kind of find in here. It's definitely here, but imagine it just a little bit sweeter because that Amontillado Sherry is just adding that sweetness right up front. I will say the spice swell here is definitely bigger than the previous two, because right after you get that sweet intro with those orchard fruits, golden raisins, golden apples, you get this really pretty moderate cinnamon swell on that mid palate. Kind of lays up on the tongue, gives it a little tingly, a little warm. And then it rolls over and you got right back into that Laphroaig iodine, the Laphroaig smoke. A little bit of that smoked meat character, not very much, but it's definitely in there. But I think the biggest thing here is that spice swell. That's the most noticeable aspect to it, other than the initial sweet fruit up front. You can still taste that barley that you're getting in here. It's still noticeable, especially on the back end. Once we get clear of all that cinnamon spice or it's coming back down, I can start finding the typical Laphroaig in this one. Okay. I still think now that this is aged and oxidized a little bit, I still think I prefer this one. All right, port. It's come around. I guess I should say I've come around. One of the two's come around. That one's really, really nice now. Oh, that's nice. Let me try that again. Very creamy, almost buttery. Reminds me of this guy. But again, much more dark fruit. And of the dark fruit, I would say it's more of a fig and maybe a little bit of prune in there, more than so raisin. Wow, loads of smoked meat in this one. The cinnamon spice is in here, but it's definitely subdued. It's not swelling on the mid palate. Matter of fact, if anything is swelling, it's the smoked meat character, and the peat is swelling on that mid palate. It's not ashy. Tad drying on the back end, no big deal. Could be the fact that I just ran through, 3 over 100 proof whiskeys. Let me try that again. It's very juicy. Those fruits and those dark fruits, almost a little bit of like a blackberry or a blackberry. I was almost gonna say blackcurrant, but no, that's blackberry. Very juicy. Still chewing on it on the back end. Still can get that peat, still can get that smoke. The brine is not so much. I'd almost attribute the salt that you get here is just almost right on that meat character. So like, you're smoking meat, you got a little salt on there, bam. Whew. Oh man, he's nice now. I almost regret shooting that video back then before I had time to let that oxidize. But again, that's part of the thing with whiskeys, is sometimes you don't know how a whiskey is going to develop. Some of them develop nicely, some of them not so nicely. It's kind of a risk you have to take sometimes with letting a bottle just aerate and just oxidize and change in the bottle. Sometimes when I find a whiskey that I like right away, I'll gas it right away. That's what I try to do with a lot of my whiskeys. Once they hit their peak or I feel them starting to degrade, I start gassing them very hard. And so I'm glad I let that develop. It's really, really nice. Matter of fact, this might almost be my favorite. It's just so good too, though. This is just straight good Laphroaig nowadays. And this is with just a little more smoked meat, a little more dark fruits. This is actually a little spicier. I would almost say I think I like this port the best so far. It's kind of crazy, but I really changed on it. I would say this is probably my favorite. This is probably my second favorite. The Amontillado third, and probably the new Madeira coming in fourth, unfortunately. But it definitely has the most wine, the most red fruits coming through. It's very easy drinking. The other three are a little more complex, a little more intricate as far as tasting, and you have to get through the little flavors and then you enjoy all that. This one's a little simpler, but it's very palatable, okay? So if you're looking for an Isla whiskey and maybe you're scared of the typical Laphroaig 10 being a little too medicinal for you or something like that, maybe you try the Madeira Cask, because that's going to give you a little more red fruits, a little more sweetness. And other than that little ash element to the peat, I think you're going to be okay with it. Again, retail pricing about $60, $65, so it's not that bad. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching once again. Keep leaving those great comments. I really appreciate it. And everybody, take care and cheers.